paint disclosure is provided by the listing agent, signed already by the seller, when the house has been built before 1978. I have already uploaded this document to Dotloop. I had to download it from the MLS. If it's not in the MLS attached, you can always ask the listing agent for it. If they don't have it ready and signed, you can still submit your as-is contract, and then once it's approved and signed by both parties, you can request the seller or the listing agent to provide this document for your buyer to sign. So let's go in the document, and you're going to have your buyer and yourself read everything that is disclosed. Most of the time they say that they have no knowledge of lead-based paint or no reports of lead-based paint in the house. It's one of the two boxes is checked in every section and then initialized, in this case by the two sellers. It's also initialized and signed by the listing agent. This is the licensee, and the signature is here as well for the agent. Now, what you have to do is have your buyer read and also add the initials for your buyer. So the buyer has received any copies of all information listed above. You have to click on that. There's no lead-based paint, so basically no copies have to be provided. You keep adding initials on the second one. You have to find a little space because it can be upon each other, on top of the other. So I do it kind of staggered. So here the buyer has to check one below. So did they receive a 10-day opportunity to conduct a risk assessment, or are they waiving the opportunity to conduct a risk assessment? I always select that they are receiving a 10-day opportunity, just in case they decide that they do want to do a lead-based paint inspection. And I just click on it, already selected. So for that, I add checkbox and drag it to that little space and then click on it to check it. Now the signature section is this one. So I'm going to add signature, click on it, assign field, Ray Zapata. You could add the date or not add the date, because when he signs, the date is gonna be stamped on the signature. But I usually go ahead and do it. Just add date and select today's date. Now the selling licensee, that is yourself. So you add signature, click on it, assign field, and you find yourself in the list of people. I found myself. I sign it immediately so that I don't have to worry about it later on. And now I am going to add the date too. Oh, you can see right there that the stamp of the date has been added next to my signature. So that's why sometimes if you don't want to do it, then you don't add the date additionally, but I decide to. And that's it for the lead-based paint disclosure. Oh, sorry, there is initials at the top. Don't forget that. I tend to forget. So assign it to the buyer. Make sure that it's been initialized by the seller. If it has not initialized by the seller and or signed by the seller, you should not have your buyer sign it or initialize it first. It has to be completely signed and initialized by the seller before you go ahead and send it to your buyer. Now you just go ahead and save it and go back. Do not share yet because you want to send all the documents together, not one by one. No share.